Hi everyone, Ravi this side. Welcome to EnggAdda. So today I am going to cover the microservices crash course. So in this course, we will be developing couple of microservices. We will see how the microservices internal communication is done. We will also see how we can register those microservices to the Eureka client, and we will also see how we can call these microservices through the API gateway. So we'll implement everything here in this course. So, coming to the requirement, uh, we are going to use IntelliJ as a IDE. We are going to use couple of databases, which is Postgre and the MySQL. Okay, so let me go to the next slide and brief you about the basic difference between the microservices and the monolithic approach. So let me go to the next slide. So I have listed out key points on which we can differentiate both of the architectures. So let me go for the basic one. So monolithic architecture is built as on large system and is usually one code base. So when we are going to develop the monolithic architecture, then it is a whole project is developed in a large system and it is usually a one code base. Okay, so let's say we are going to develop a banking application which is having multiple modules, but we developed the whole application in a single project. Then that architecture is called as a monolithic architecture. There is only one single database which is used by this architecture. Okay, so this type of single-handedly development of the project is called monolithic approach. Coming to the microservices approach, if there is a monolithic project, then we can chop down those project in a small services, and those small services are independent modules and they can be communicative with each others also. So this type of developing the project is called as microservice architecture. So microservice architecture is built as a small independent modules based upon the business functionality. Coming to the scalability, it is for the monolithic, it is not easy to scale based upon the demand, but it is easy to scale based upon the demand for the microservice architecture. Coming to the database, it has shared database because only one database is there. So every modules inside the same project is sharing that database. But for the microservice architecture, we can have multiple database for multiple modules. Let's say in this project, I will be using two databases. One is PostgreSQL, another is MySQL. So we can have multiple database we can use for multiple modules that we are going to develop. Coming to the key point deployment, large code base makes IDE slow and build time gets increases. So whenever a project is very large in volume, very large in code, then it will slow down the whole IDE. So the development process is also slowed. But this is not the case for the microservice architecture because they are small in the size. So overall development time is very much decreased and it is very efficient. Okay, so coming to the fifth point, which is tightly coupled and loosely coupled. So monolithic architecture is tightly coupled and it does not allow us to introduce new technologies. But this is not the case for the microservice architecture because it is loosely coupled. We can involve different type of technology stacks here. So coming to the next slide, microservices. I will brief you about something about the microservices. So it is a large application that are divided into the small parts. Okay, let's say I am going to develop three microservices: student service, library service, and the book service. So book service is called by the library service, and library service is ultimately called by the student service. So a library can have multiple books. A student can register with one library. Okay, so let me go next. So this is about the communication between them. And coming to the next point for the microservices, it is having the different code base. Okay, each modules managed independently. That is all what we discussed. And different tech stack. So different tech stack means one microservice we can develop using the Spring Boot and MySQL. Another we can use Spring Boot and let's say PostgreSQL. Third one we can use as a Python and Django. So we can use multiple stack. It are independent, and there is a mechanism by which we can directly call each services into the another one. Coming to one drawback of the microservices, handling microservices is little complex because they are large in number and it take much time to do their deployment and scaling. So that is the one disadvantage of it. Coming to the next slide, what the steps I'm going to follow to develop this course. So we have uh, all the steps listed out here. So I'm going to create these three microservices, that is student, okay, and the two services are books and library. Here it is wrongly written. Okay, I'm going to create one Eureka server, okay, and I will register all the services to the Eureka server, and then I will create a API gateway and I will register it to the Eureka server, and then I will call this book and library service inside the student service through the REST template, and will call all the services through the API gateway. So this is about the step that we are going to follow. And let me go to the next slide. Service registry. So how we will register these services to the Eureka server, that I'm going to explain. So let's say we have the student service, library service, and the book service, and each of them is up on some port. Like student is up on 9091, library on 9092, and book service is on 9093, and they all are registered to one service, which is registry service, and this is Eureka server, which is up on 8761, which is the default port for the Eureka server. So we can track the information of each of the services which are registered to the Eureka server to this Eureka server page. So I will show you how you can track those things, and with the help of the name of each services we can directly call one service into the another service. So I will show you each of the things there. Coming to the next slide is a API gateway development. So let's say I have a student service which is using the database DB1. I have the library service which is using the database DB2, and I have the third service which is book service which is using the database DB3. And which each of like book service is called by the library service and library service is called by the student service. And we have developed one API gateway service, and with the help of API gateway service the client directly call each of the services. Okay, so I will show you those scenarios here. Okay, let me go. Okay, this is about the whole flow of the project that we are going to develop. Okay, so let me go to the Intellij, and then from there I will show you how you can start our development. So let this video till here only. In the next video, I will go to the development. Okay, so today I'm just going to discuss you the prerequisite for this course. So you should be having some application installed and some basic knowledge of Spring. So let me walk you through what the idea and what the database is and what other tools I'm going to use for this development. So these are the list of application that you should be having on your system so that we can go for this course. So coming to the IDE, we are going to use either of them you can use. There are these are the well-known IDE in the market, and they are very much good when coming to the development like this. So I am going to use the IntelliJ. Okay, so I am going to use the IntelliJ Premium version. You can use the IntelliJ Premium version for free for 1 month. So from there you can download, like from the IntelliJ site, you can download it and you can use the ultimate version for 1 month free. So I'm going to use the IntelliJ for this lectures. You can use the Eclipse as well as you can use the STS. If you have any of them, then you can also use this. Coming to the database, I am going to use these two databases. One is MySQL Workbench and another is PostgreSQL. So you can see on my system I already have installed the MySQL, and for PostgreSQL when you will install it, so some server page will open like pgadmin. There you need to log in and you can see this is the PostgreSQL. And coming to the client tool, I'm going to use the Postman as a client tool. So you can see I have installed this. So with the help of the Postman, we can send the query, send the request to the APIs. And if you want to get the to want to hit some APIs, you can use the Postman. If you want to insert some details, you can use the Postman. So Postman is required for this course. And coming to the knowledge, you must be having the basic knowledge of the Spring Boot, like how we can create a CRUD application. Okay, so those things are required. And the new version of Java we are going to use. So we are going to use the Java 17. The latest is Java 19, but yeah, for when we are going to the development of the Spring Boot application, this is what the recommended one now. So these are the tools, application, and some basic knowledge that are the prerequisite for this course. So please be prepared for this and please install everything on your system, and then we can start this course. So in this video, I'm going to develop the student service, microservice 1. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to open the IntelliJ for it, and I will create some APIs for the student service, and I will use the MySQL as a database for it, and I will show you how we can connect to the MySQL and how we can do some operations there. So I'm simply going to create two APIs. One is Post and another is uh, Git API. So I will show you whole development. So please be with me and start doing the code. So I went to the file, go to the new and project, and here I'm using the IntelliJ Ultimate version. So that is why this page is coming up here only. We can see the Spring Initializer here. If you're not using it, there is another way. You can come to the browser and you can open this, let's say, Spring Starter, and there you can find this page, the IntelliJ page that you can see here. This is Spring is Initializer page you can find there, and from there you can download the project and you can unzip it, and then you can open into the IDE, either in the IntelliJ or STS or this Eclipse, whatever IDE you are going to use. So you can open there and from there you can start doing the things. So now I'm going back. It is loading. I don't know why it is taking some time. So let's say let us start the creation of the project first, and then later on I will show you what I was talking about the Spring Starter. So let me create the project name as a student service project, something like that, or student service app. Okay, let me go next. I'm going to use some starter dependency here. Let's say Lombok and Spring Web. And coming to the SQL, I'm going to use the Spring Data JPA and MySQL driver and just do a create and open in a new tab. It will take some seconds to configure itself. Till then, I will go to the browser and I will show you from where you can download this project. So this is the page Spring Initializer, and here the same page where we were doing some configuration was open in the IntelliJ. It is the same page. So here you can provide the name, let's say Spring or student service app. Okay, and You can choose Maven here, and with the help of this, you can add this dependency Lombok. You can type it here web, Spring Web came, and similarly for the JPA, you can type it, and then Spring Data JPA is there. You can use it. And the other dependency that you want to use is MySQL driver. So you can select this, and then you can generate it. It will generate a zip file, and then you can unzip it. You can see it is generated here. Okay, so you need to change the name of the artifact as well, so that it can come like a student service app. And you can see here, go to the download. You can see it is downloaded. You can unzip it, and then directly you can come to the Intellij or whatever ID you are using. Come here, and directly from here you can open that. So you can browse this location. So it was in download for me. Let me go download, and you can see these applications are there, right? So where is that? I need to see. I have a lot of files in my download. So similar way, like let's say some application is there. I am going to select that and open and show you. So let's say it is this. It will open like this only. You can trust, and you can open in a new tab. So it will open this way. Okay, and you can start the development after that. So let me close this. So we have created this student service app. Now coming to the source main in Java, let me minimize all these things. Okay, now I'm going to create some packages here like entity. Okay, and some other packages like repo, service, and controller. Service, okay, this is not there. Service, and similarly you can create the package called controller. Okay, now this is the student service application. I'm going to create the entity student here. So let me create the student entity. Okay, let's say student entity has some reference like private student ID. So it is of integer type. So integer ID, private s name, private string name, private string father name, private string address, and private int age. So this much of instance I am going to use for this. Let me make student ID as a ID, and it should be auto generated. For that I'm going to use this generated value, and it should be identity. So strategy. Okay, so now we are done with this. Coming to the student, I'm using the Lombok. So with the help of Lombok, we can directly call some annotations like all argument constructor, no argument constructor. So we need not to create all of these codes. So it will save our codes. So I'm directly using these annotations. With the help of data, we can generate the getter and setter to a string. So I'm using those things. This is the entity class, so I'm annotating it with the entity, and I'm going to create the table called student. So let's say name equal to student table, something like that you can say. Okay, so we are good with the entity creation. Now coming to the repository, I'm going to create the student repo, and this is the interface, and it should extend the JPA repository so that we can use the JPA provided methods. So extend JPA repository. Here what I'm going to pass, we need to pass two argument here. Okay, the first one is the entity class, which is student. Okay, and the second is the type of ID of entity class. So student has the ID as ID and its type is integer, so that we need to provide here. Coming to the service, let me create the service class, which is student service. Okay, let me create it. Let me annotate this class with the annotation called @service so that we can create the bean out of it. And let me create these two methods here. So let's say public student get student by ID. Okay, and let me pass the ID here. So this is the get method. Okay, so based upon the ID, this method will call the this method will fetch out the record from the database. So okay, let me auto wire the user, sorry, student repository here so that we can with the help of the JPA provided method we can do this operation get and post. So let me auto wire this. Okay, let's say it is private. Okay, copy this and then come here, paste it, and we have the method called find by ID. So I'm going to use that, and here we are passing the ID, the argument that we are passing here, and then simply I'm returning it. So and then here we need to do a get. So what is happening here, we are fetching out the student record from the database for a particular ID, particular student ID, and then returning it. Similarly, what you can do, you can create the method to insert the user. So these two method I'm going to create. So let's say it is student and insert. Okay, and here I'm not, I'm providing the student reference, which will send in the form of the request, and then with the help of the JPA save method, we can save this to the database. So and then simply returning it. So we are done with this. Now coming to the controller class, let me go and then let me create the controller here. So let's say it is student controller. Okay, let me annotate this with the @REST application and some mapping I need to do. So request mapping. So let's say I mapped this whole class to the student. Okay. Now coming here, I need to call the student service method here. So let me auto wire the student service reference. So I'm doing that student service. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to create the get mapping and post mapping so that we can call the methods which we have created into the student service class. So this is the get mapping. Let me put like student, and then let me pass some ID here. So based upon the ID, we are going to fetch the student from the database. So let me create the method. So it is of student type, get student, something like that, by ID. Okay, and let me do it public. And here what I going to do is, let me first of all let me import this. Here I am passing this ID as a path variable. So in the form of the URL, I need to pass this ID so that we can fetch out from the database. So I'm going to use this student service, and I'm going to call the method that we have created, get student by the ID, and here I will pass the ID. So this is all that we need to do, and simply return this. Coming to the post mapping, let me copy this, and I will create the post mapping as well. So let me change this to the post mapping. Here let me change it to the insert. Okay, and here let me change it to the insert student. And here we need to pass the student reference. So I will pass this student reference in the form of with the help of this request body annotation, so that whatever request is coming in the form of JSON, it will convert to the uh, Java object, and then it will save into the database. So for that we are using this. Let me call student, and let me pass the reference here, and coming here let me call the method of this student service class, which is insert, and then pass this reference, student reference. So we are done with this. So we are done with the development of the APIs. Now coming to the configuration of the database, I already have this configuration handy so that it can save our time. So if you need these things, I will ping the GitHub link of this whole application development. From there you can find it out. So come to the Intellij. Let me paste it here. So I will explain you each of the configuration that I did here. So this configuration is for the database driver. So this is for the MySQL driver that we are going to use. This is the app, this is the URL. Okay, and this one is the database that I have created. This is the username and password for me. And coming to this, these are the query, these are the configuration, so that we can see the query that is going to fired. And this is for the like DDL auto is for automatically doing some firing some commands. So this is for that. This is for the server dot port is to run this application on some particular port. So I'm going to run this application on the port number 9190, or let's say it is 9091. So this is about this. Okay, now coming to the database, I'm going to create a separate database for this. Let's say student service app I'm going to create. So this is the MySQL. Come here to this icon. Let's say it is student service app, student service app. Apply this, apply it, and it will create it. From here you can copy it and then come to the development. Here you can paste it out. Okay, this is the username and password. This is the URL. Everything is done. Okay, now let me run this application, and then I will show you how it is behaving. So it will be, because of this configuration, it will automatically fire one create query, and it will create a table into the database. And with the help of the APIs, I will try to insert some details there, and then we'll try to see. And after that, I will create the another application, and then I will show you how they can communicate with each other. So you can see here a fire command is triggered. A query is triggered, which is a create table query. Come to the database, you can see this is the application that we created. You can see student table is created here. So come here, you can say student table and just fire this command. You can see this is created. Nothing is there into the database, but yeah, the table is created now. So come here. Let me open the Postman, and with the help of Postman, what I'm going to do, I'm going to insert some detail there. So let's say, uh, let me see if some details is there, or what we can do, we can directly come here and let me change the method to the post. Okay, and this application is up on 9091, and these are the mappings I will see again. Come to the student controller class, you can see this is the request mapping, and to insert the student, this is the insert one, and then we need to provide the details of this instance variable. ID is auto generated, so I will skip this. So let's come to the postman again. So this is student, and then insert, this is the post one. Now coming to the body, you can select this JSON, and now here let me pass the request here. So name, and let's say name is Rahul. Okay, and let's say name is father name is Ajay, and coming to the address is there. Okay, and then let's say Delhi, and age is there, I think. Let's say it is 24. Let me go to the entity again and then see if something is missing or not. So we are leaving the ID and coming to the name and father name and address and age. Uh, we use this in the request. So we are done with this. Now let me send this and see how it is behaving. So you can see this is inserted into the database. Now come to the database. You can run this application, this command, and then you can see it is inserted. Let me create couple of records there. So let me change the name to the Akash, and let's say Akash and Rahul are brother, and their age difference is 6. So the father name is same, and so it was 24 to 26 I made, and then let hit this API. So we have inserted these two records there into the database. Okay, now come here. Now coming to uh, the development of the student service, we are good, but we are missing something here. So you can see we have only these records, but in the coming development, I'm going to develop the library service. I'm going to develop the book service. So library service, one student can have a ID. One student can have a library ID. Okay, so we are going to introduce some new instance variable with the library ID. Okay, so that I'm going to do in the next video, and when I will develop the library service, then after I will show you how you can map these two things. Okay, so we need to use the for this foreign key mapping, and then I will show you all those things in the next video. So today in this video, I'm going to develop the library and the book services. Okay, so let's get started. Come to Intellij. So with the book service, I'm going to use this PostgreSQL as a database, and for the library service, I'm going to use the MySQL as a database. And in the earlier one, we have used the MySQL as a database for the student service. So this is about the databases. So let me create the project. So let's say it is book service, book service. Okay, and let me map here. So we are creating this thing inside the project. Okay, so yeah, go next. Let me use the Lombok here, and this is for the PostgreSQL. So I'm going to use the PostgreSQL database here. So for that we need the PostgreSQL driver, and I need to use the JPA as well. So this is all the dependency that I know need as of now. Later on, when we try to register this with the register with this Eureka, we need the Eureka client, and so whatever dependency we need later on, I will try to add those things. So let me create this. Okay, it is created. Let me open in a new tab. It will take few seconds to configure itself till I'm going to create the other service, which is library service. So let me create library service. Okay, go next. I will include, like, I'm going to use the MySQL as a database in this, so I will include this MySQL driver, and other dependency what I need to use is web and GPA. So these are the starter dependency that I need to use. Okay, let me open in a new tab. So let me close this one. Let me go to the book service. So okay, it is not configured as a Maven project. There is a problem with my IntelliJ. So let me close this and then reopen that again so that it will open like a Maven project. So it is a book service. Let me open in a new tab. Let me do the same for the library. Let me see if the library is configured or not. So okay, let me do the same thing. Okay, so for book service it is giving us a prompt to load a Maven project. And let me come to the library. It will give here for the library as well. So let me load it to the Maven project. So here you can see it is loaded. Now coming to the Java, I'm going to create couple of packages. So I'm following the MVC pattern. So I'm going to create the entity, repository, service, and repo, and service and controller. So let me create the controller now. Controller. Okay, sorry. Let me go here and right click and then create new controller. Okay. The same architecture I'm going to follow in the book service also. So let me copy this and then come here to the book service and sorry, let me cancel this. Come to the source, go to the main Java, and let me come here and paste these all things. Okay, so it is created. Now coming to the book, I'm going to create the entity class and then I will create the repo and then I will create the service and controller. So let me create the book entity. Let me create some instance here. So let me create the book ID. So let's say it is of integer type ID, and let me create the name. Uh, Let me create the author name and let me create the price here. Okay, I'm using the ID as ID. Okay, and it should be auto generated. So for that, I'm using the generated value. Strategy is identity, and let me put the semicolon here. Here I'm going to use this as a, like, with the help of Lombok, I'm going to call this all argument constructor, no argument constructor, and data for the getter and setter, and we have this entity, and we need to have the table here. So let me give the name of the table to book, something like book. So we are done with the development of the entity class. Coming to the repository, let me create the book repo as an interface. Okay, add it, Let me extend with the JPA repository and let me to or add this arguments here. So we need to provide the entity and the ID type of entity, which is of integer type. Let me import this class here. So we need to import this, and what I need to do now, I need to go to the service and then create a book service class here, book service. Okay, service, and here I will try to implement couple of methods. So before going to the implementation of the method, let me annotate this class with the @service annotation. And now with the help of I need to auto-wire the book repo here, because with the help of book repo, with the help of the JPA provider method, I'm going to call the insert and then get map methods of the JPA. So that is why I'm going to use the book repo here. Let me auto-wire that. So private book repo, and let me create the method. One is to get book by ID, and another is to insert the book into the database. So let me go here. Let me create the public. Let its return type be book, and coming here, let me pass the ID. Let me import the book here, and coming here, let me use this book repository. And with the help of book repository, there is a method called find by ID. So I'm going to use that method find by ID, and I will pass the ID here, which we are providing in the form of argument, and then simply return this. So what it will do, it will create the book, and it will get the book from the database, and then it will return us. Okay, similarly, I'm going to create the method to insert the book record into the database. So let's say insert book, and here we need to pass the book reference. So book, and let me pass it, and we are going to change the method here. So I'm going to use the same method of the JPA and pass the book reference here. So this is about this two method that I created. Coming to the controller class, let me create the book controller here. So let's say it is book controller. Let me annotate it with the REST controller and request mapping. Let me map this to the book. Okay, now coming here, let me create a git mapping. Okay, and let me map. This is a git mapping, and we are finding the book by ID. So I'm mapping this like I'm mapping with the book, and then I'm providing the ID as a path variable. So let me create the method for it. Get book by ID, something like that, and then it should be public type and its return type should be book. So let me create that, and here I need to pass the ID, what we are passing into the form of uh, path variable. So these things, let me use the path variable annotation here, and let me auto wire the book service class reference here. So I'm going to auto wire it here. So let's say it's a book reference and book reference. With the help of the book reference, I'm going to call those methods that we have created. So there is a two method. One is to get the book by ID, and I'm passing the ID here. And one another method is to insert the book into the database. So let me return this so it will work. Now let me create the post mapping here. So come here, copy it, and then paste it. So let me change this to the post mapping, and here what I'm going to do, I'm going to map the URL like insert, and let me change it here insert book, something like that, and here I'm going to pass as a request body and pass the reference of the book. So let me do that. It's a request body, and here we need to pass the reference of the book. So let me create that book and book reference. So that is what I need to do. And I'm going to call the method that we have created. So it is an insert method that we have created into the service class. So I'm using that, okay, and returning it. So this is the two thing that I need to do. So we are done with the development of the APIs for the book. Now coming to the resource, I'm going to use the application YML file for the configuration of the database. So let me create that file first, application.yml, and I already have the configuration listed out here, so I'm going to use this. So let me copy this from here. I will provide all this configuration in the Git repository. So from there, like I will push the Git repo for all of the services. So you can use that link, and then you can from there you can get it. So don't worry about it. So come to the book service. Coming to the application YML file, I'm just the first service we are hosting on 9091. Let me host this on 9093, and then second one library service that I'm going to create, let me host on the 9092. Okay, coming here, this is the URL for the database, the PostgreSQL database that I'm going to use. This is my database name, and this is the username and password, and this is to show the query that is fired. This SQL show is to show the fired query in the log files, and this is to automatically create some, uh, let's say, some SQL commands. So if I will run this application, then it will automatically create the table for us. So let me show you that. And coming to the database, let me show you what all the tables I have. So I came here, and you can see this is my database that I used in the URL, and I came here in the table section of it. You can come to the schema and then come to the table. You can see this many tables I have. Okay, let me go to the application and run the application, and then I will show you that the book table, it will be created there. So let me run this application, and then I will show you. So once it is done, we are good with the development of the book service, and then after that I will be going to develop the library service, and then I will in the next video I will show you how we can call each services inside the other service. Okay, so let me wait here. So it is up on 9093 port number, and come to the PostgreSQL. You can come here and let me refresh the table section here, and you can see the book table is created here, and you can come to the book service and come down. You can see here this Hibernate query is fired. So with the help of this configuration, we are firing the Hibernate query with the help of this configuration, and this is what it is showing, the SQL Hibernate query. So this is about the book service. Now let me create the library service, and after that I will I will try to call the book service inside the library service, and then library service inside the student service. So, and then we'll try to register each of them to the Eureka server, and then we'll implement the API gateway. So this is about this video. Let me create the library service in the next video. Okay, so if I am going to develop the library service here, so let me go to the Intellij. I already have created this library service project, and let me start with the development. So in the entity class, entity package, I'm going to create the library class. So I created it, and then let me go and let me create the instance here. So let me create the ID, which is of integer type, and let me create the library name and address, and let me create the ID name, address, and email of the library. So let me create that private string email, something like that. uh, so this four instance variable we have created for the library. Let me use all argument constructor, no argument constructor, data, and entity. Okay, and let me create the table for it. So let's say the table name is library, name is equal to library. Okay, so now let me put this as a ID. Okay, and it should be generated, auto generated. So for that I'm going to use the generated value identity. The strategy should be identity auto generated, generation type is equal to identity, so that unique ID will be created for it. So we are done with the development of the library entity class. Now coming to the repository, let me create the library repo interface here. So let me create library repo as a interface. Okay, and let me extend this interface with the JPA repository. So let me use the JPA repo here, and we need to provide these two arguments here, which is a entity. So entity is library, and the ID type of the entity, which is of integer type. So I'm going to use that. So we are done with this. Now coming to the service class, let me create the, okay, here I think, yeah, it is already included. Let me create the service for it. So the service is library service. Okay, let me create this, and let me annotate this class with the annotation called at the rate service, so that we can create the bin out of it. Now coming here, let me create the methods. So let me create the method to insert library object or library record into the database. So insert library, and let's say its return type is library. Okay, and let me pass here the library as a reference, so that we can insert that library reference to the database. So to call the database methods, I need to auto wire the library repository here. So I'm going to do that. So private library repo, and let me create the reference of it. So with the help of the library repo, I will call the JPA provided method, which is save, and I will pass the reference here so that it can save it and then simply return that. So this is about this method, and coming to the other method, I'm going to create a get method. So simply copy paste it. Let me get library by ID, something like that, and here I'm going to provide the ID. So it is int ID, and I will call the JPA provided method, which is find by ID. So and we need to pass the ID here, and then we need to get it. So this is all what we need to do for the service. Now coming to the controller, let me create the controller for it. So it is library controller. Okay, let me annotate this controller class with the annotation call at the rate rest controller and at the rate request mapping. I'm going to use some mapping here at the class level. So let's say it is library. Okay, now coming here, let me create the two methods, and before that I'm going to auto the service this library service class reference, so that we can directly call the method that we have created there. So library service, and let me put the modifier for it. Now let me create the post mapping, and let me pass here insert. Let me create the method for it. So insert library, something like that, or insert lib we have provided here. Let me, its return type should be library type. Okay, and let it make as a public. So modifier is a public, return type is library, and the method name is insert lib. And here I'm passing the, with the help of the request body, I will pass the request from the postman. So that is why I'm passing here the reference of library object I'm passing here, and with the help of this library service, what I'm going to do, I'm going to call the same method that we have created, or insert library method that we have created here. Let me pass this and just simply return this. We are done with the post mapping. Let me copy it and paste it, and let me create the get mapping here. So let's say it is get mapping, and this is the library. So I'm going to get the library object with the help of the ID, and I will pass this ID in the form of path variable. So I'm going to use the path variable here. Let me pass the ID here, and with the help of that ID, I'm going to call the ID from the database. So why this is okay. So I will check that. Let me come here and let me call the get library by ID and pass the ID here. And let's run the library here. So insert lib, okay. This is the name. Because of that, we are getting the conflict. Let me change this get by ID, something like that. And okay, why we are getting this library to library type. Okay, okay, we are not using the library class that we have created. So let me import that class, and then it will, yeah, from entity we need to import it. So it will not show the error. So get library by ID. Okay, so we are good with the development of the mappings here. Now let me create the what I would say. Let me create some records for each of these services that I have created. Before going to the record creation, let me come here, and I'm going to use the MySQL as a database. So let me do some configuration. I already have this configuration. So let me copy this and let me go there and paste it. So come to the library service. Here I'm going to paste it. You can see this is the driver name and this is the URL, username and password. These are these are to show the Hibernate SQL query, and this is to directly create some database into the database when we are running the application. So this is about this, and I'm going to create one database called library service. So let me come here to the MySQL. Let me name it like library service, and let me apply and create it and finish it. Let me copy this, and I'm going to use this database for the library service. So come to the library service here, and let me replace here, and then this is the username and password. Everything is good. Now I'm going to make this service 2 up on the port number 9092. So this is for that. Okay, so we are done with this. Now let me run this application, and then I will show you that database with a table with the name called library is created into the database that we have created now. So once it is done, I will insert couple of record into the book and the library service, and then in the next video we'll try to call each of the services in another service. So with the help of the REST template. So it is, you can see here one create table query is fired because of this only, and we are able to show because we make it true. So this thing is done. Now coming to the MySQL database, let me go to the library service that I have created, the database library service. So where is that? Here it is. Let me go to the table. Let me refresh this and let me show you that. Yeah, library table is created here. Come to this. Come here. Let me try to run this. Select star from library. You can see this is created. So now let me insert couple of records into the book service and the library service, and then I will see how the APIs that we have created for both of the services is working. After that, we'll try to call each service inside the other service. Now let me have created these services. Let me come to the postman. Let me try to insert some record in each of the services that we have created. So come here to the book service. Let's say come to the book service, and you can see uh, these are the instance variable that we are going to use. So let me come to this postman, and here you can see I'm going to insert some record into the book service. So book service is up on the port number 9093, and the URL for this is book. And here, if you're going to insert this book service, so it is book slash insert. And let me change the method to post and come to the book service. And these are the instance variable name, author, and price, and ID is auto generated. So come to the postman, name, author, and price, and let me remove this ID. So these are the, let's say author is uh, James, okay, and these are the price of book. So now we're done. And this book serv book service, we are using the database as a PostgreSQL. Okay, so you can come here and you can see we have already created this. Now let me select the book service and let me fire some query and then see how it is looking like. So you can see this is there. Let me come here, and the book service is up, I think. Yeah, the book service is up on the port number 9093. You can see here. Come to the postman. We are done with this thing, URL, and this is the post method, and we have created the request. Now let me send it and let's see how it is working. Okay, book and insert is not found. Okay, come to the book service. Okay, here you can see, come to the book controller. It is insert. I is in small, and this is the book. Yeah, so come to the postman again. Let me make this a small and then try to hit this, and let's see how it is working. So one book record is created. Now you can come here, and from here you can also run this query and then see once record is created. Now coming to the postman, let me insert, let's say we have only one record here, and let me come to the library service. Let me create one record there into the library service as well. So coming to the library controller, uh, for library also we have the library and then insert, and this application is up on 9092. So let me come to the postman. Let me change the mapping 9092. It is library and then insert. Now coming to the instance, what we have in the library, come to the library entity, and then you can see name, address, and email is there. So come to the postman now, name, address, and let's change it to the email. And let me say it is Delhi. Name is Raman Library, something like that. Raman Library. Okay. And email is Raman at the rate gmail.com, something like that. And let me send this and let's see how it is behaving. So you can see this is created. So let me go to the MySQL database. Let me run this library and then show you. So you can see this one record is inserted into the library and one record is inserted into the book database. So we are done with the insertion of it. In the next video, what I'm going to cover is I am going to show you how we are going to call the book service inside the library service and then library service inside the student service. So yeah, let me this is about this video. Let me cover the next topic into the next video. So today I'm going to show you how the microservices communicate internally using the REST template. So coming to the services, let me call the book service inside the library service. So in the last video we saw that we have inserted couple of records into the book service as well as the library service. So it is working fine. Now both are up. Let me make it down. Let me close this also. So I'm going to, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to insert the book service inside the library service. So I'm going to call the book service inside the library service. So let me go there. So if you are going to call a service inside the another service, so here what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the one and one mapping with the library and the book. So for that, I'm going to create a book entity here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to the book service. I'm directly copying this and pasting it out in the library service. So let me paste it. Okay, and let me edit. And coming to the library service, I'm going to make one change. I'm going to call the I'm going to create an instance of the book service book entity here so that we can call the book service with the help of the library service. So let me create the book entity here. Book. Okay, so it is asking for the mapping. So let me do one-on-one association mapping here. So it is book ID is the reference, foreign key reference for it. Okay, now coming to the library, yeah, library service, we have created the book instance and book ID is the foreign key reference. And with the help of the book ID and the library ID, these two tables are joined. Okay, so now we are done with this. Now let me go to the controller. Okay, in the library controller, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to call the book service inside the library service. Okay, so for the particular, let's say I'm passing the library ID 1. So with the help of this ID is there into the library table as well as in the book table, and this is common for them. Okay, so if I will pass the library ID as 1, then it will go to the book table, and from there it will fetch out the book 1, like record of the book with ID 1, and we can insert that thing into the library object and then simply return it. So let me do it and then I will show you how I'm telling to do it. Okay, so you can see in the real example. So what I'm going to do with the help of the REST template, we will be able to call the one service into the another service. So for that, what I need to do, I need to configure the REST template. So for the configuration, either you can create a package called config, and there you can create a application configuration class and annotate that class with the help of annotation called @configuration, and there you can write these things. But Spring Boot application is also providing the configuration feature, so directly I'm going to write the configuration for the REST template here only. So let me create a REST template method. So get REST template. Okay, and this will return a new REST template. Okay, let me do it public, and we need the bean of it. So let me return first. So I'm going to annotate this method with the help of bean, and I'm making it is a primary. So it will pick from here. So we are done with the configuration. Come to the library controller. Okay, so in this method, in this API only, I'm going to call the book service. Okay, so for that, what I'm going to do, let me create a book reference. So let me insert it, book, and with the help of the REST template. Okay, so I need to auto-wire the REST template instance here. So let me do that. I'm copying, pasting it, and let me change it to the REST template. REST template. Let me change this to the REST template. And with the help of this, I will call one method which is get for object. So and here we need to pass the URL and we need to pass the corresponding class. So this is the book class. So let me pass this book.class, and book service is up on the port number 9093. Let me go to the postman, and this is for the library, and the book service is up on the port number 9093. And let me go to the book service first, and let me show you the controller. So you can see here the main mapping for the book service is book, and then if you are going to get the book from the database, then this is the mapping for that. So I'm going to get the book, I'm going to call this API. Okay, and I'm mapping the URL like this only. So come to the library service. You can see here into the URL what I'm going to do. I'm going to call the book API. So let me write the URL for it. So it is HTTP localhost and what is that? The port number was 9093 and then it is the main mapping is book, and then if you are going for a particular say method which is get mapping by which is get mapping for the book, so you can see the mapping for it is this. So let me copy this and come to the library service. Okay, let me paste it here. Okay, till book it is fine. Now I just want to get this ID from the above. So for that what I'm going to do, let me map it like ID. Okay, so with the help of this URL, we are going to call the book from the book database, and we are getting it here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to let's say with the help of this get library by ID, we are getting the library object from the database. So let me create a object for this library. Library is equal to this, and then I will insert the book in this reference. I will insert the book that we got from the this API. I will insert here. So let me set the book and let me pass the reference of the book that we got from the API, and then simply return the library. Simply return the library reference that we have created above. So this is about the calling of the of the APIs. So what I'm going to do. I am just calling the REST API which is a which is a book service REST API, and I'm calling the get mapping of that book service. So with this help of the REST template, we are calling one service into the another service, and we are returning it. So let me run this application, and then I will show you how it is behaving. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fetch this, I'm going to call this get mapping of the library, and then we'll see how it is behaving. If it is calling the book service from the book database or not. So I will show you those things. So it is up on the port number 9092. Let me go to the postman and let me hit this API here. So it is library and then library, and let me pass the ID one. Okay, so the method is get for it. So let me change the method and let me do. Okay, so it is library and then one. It is not going there. Let me go to the book service and let me come here and let me see how it is behaving. So connection refused, method request, post is not supported. So let me rerun this application again and then try to hit the API and then see why it is not picking up and what is the error is coming. So as far as our development is done, we are good with the calling of the book service inside the library service. So let me go here and let me again check the library service, and it is library. Okay, and then for the getting it is capital L and library and then passing the ID here. So come to the postman and you can see that it is library and then capital L library and then passing the ID here. Let me hit it and let me see how it is behaving. It is not picking up. So come to the library and let me see what is coming up. New exception request, error on get book ID. Let me see if the book is active or not. So the book service is not active. So let me rerun this, and then because of it was not available, it was not running up. So that is why it is not picking up from there, and then that is why we are getting the error. So let me run this. So it is up on 9093. Now let me go to the postman and then try to hit the library API and then see how it is behaving. So you can see we are getting the result. So we have only one record into the library and one record into the book also. So whatever ID we are passing here as a book argument, so the same ID is going and matching to the, sorry, whatever ID we are passing here into the library, same ID is going and matching to the book, and it is fetching out the book for the ID 1. So this is about the internal calling of the REST, internal calling of the microservices. And I in this video what I showed you how we can call the book service inside the library service. In the next video I am going to call the library service inside the student service. So if you so here I'm going to call the library service in the student service. In the last video, I showed you that how we can call the book service in the library service. Similarly, we'll call the library service into the student service. So let me go to the IntelliJ. Let me see if it is open or not. So the student service application is not open. So let me come here to the file. Let me go to the open recent and let me see. So this is the application that we developed. So let me open it. And let me brief about this first and then so you can see student table we have created in the application.properties file. You can see this is the database that I was using, a student service app, and I have inserted couple of record, and this is the MySQL database. Okay, so let me go there. It is the database table is there, student table is there. Let me try to fire this query and show you. So these two records are there. Now coming to the IntelliJ, and this application student service application is running on the port number 9091. So let me do the development first and then I will try to run the application and try to hit the API. So similarly how we try to call the book service inside the library service, same way I'm going to call the library inside the student service. So let me for that what I need to do, I need to do a one mapping of the library to the student. And so for that we need the student entity, sorry, library entity inside the student. So before going there, let me create the reference of the library here in the student entity. So let me create library and let me copy this from the library service, the entity of library. Okay, and then paste it into the student service. So I copy it, come to the student service, copy and paste to the entity in the student service, edit. Okay, now coming to the student service, let me do the mapping for it. So let me right click. So I'm going to do one-to-one mapping. So it is map and this is the foreign key for this. Okay, now coming to the library, it is having book. So we need to include the book also in this student service entity. Sorry, student entity. Yeah. So let me go to the book service, copy the book entity and let me paste to the student service. So go to the student service application, go to the entity and paste it there, add it. Okay, so I think now we are good. Now come to the student controller. I'm here in the get mapping. I'm going to call the library. How we call the uh, book inside the library, similar way I'm going to call the library inside the student. So for that what I'm going to do, Uh, before going to call, we need to have the REST template configured in our application. So I'm going to the student service application. So in the last video also I told you that if you don't want to configure the REST template here in the main class, so you can separately create a package config and there you can create a class and put the @configuration on top of that class and then you can configure those things there. But I'm doing here, so let me create the REST template method which is returning a instance of REST template. Okay, so let me create it. So it is REST template and its return type is public. Sorry, modifier is public. Let me return a new REST template object from here. And at the top of this method, let me create a bean because we want the bean of it, and let me do this as a primary so that whenever we are calling the REST template, it will get it from here. So coming to the student controller, let me what I need to do, let me create a library instance and let me call the library API using the REST template. So for that, what I need to do, I need to auto-wire the REST template here in this class. So copy this, paste it here. Let me change it to the REST template, and let me change this reference to the REST template also. And with the help of the REST template reference, we have a method get for object. So I'm calling that, and there we need to pass the URL and the class name. So let me pass the class name, which is library here, library.class. And in the URL, we need to pass the URL of the library mapping. So come to the library service. I'm going to call this library method. Okay, so for that, this is the API. So for calling the library, library is up on the port number 9092, and this is the class level mapping for that. So I'm going to create the URL for this. You can come to the postman and you can see if it is there or not. So for library, it is there. Let me copy it from here and let me go to the student service, and where it is, yeah, here in the URL you can paste it out. So till here, this is the class level mapping, and after that, if you are going to call the get mapping method that we have created into the library controller, so you can use this, or and what I'm going to do, I'm using the student ID as a reference to the library ID. So because we have mapped it one to one, so student ID is mapped to the library ID, and if I am sending the student one, then it will go to the library table as a library one. So for student one, we have mapped library one record, and for the library one, we have mapped the book one record. So this is how the mapping is done, which is a one-to-one mapping. Let me try to pass the ID here. So it is passed. Let me put the semicolon. So we are getting the library object here. Now let me create a student object, and with the help of the get student by ID, I'm calling the student from the database, and let me set the library for the student. So go here and let me pass the library reference here and simply return the student reference. So we are done with this. Okay, now let me see if other application are up or not. So this is up, and book is up, library is also up, I think. Let me go. Yeah, I think it is up. Now coming to the student service, we made these changes. Now let me try to rerun the student service and then try to hit this API of the student. So let me go to the postman. Let me make these changes. So student service is up on the port number 9091, and class level mapping is student. And here what we need to provide, we need to provide the we are going to fire the get mapping. So for that, the mapping is student capital S, and then we need to pass the ID. So this is the mapping for it. So come to the student service application. Let me enable it. It is up on 9091. This is the mapping that I'm going to use, and the class level, this is the mapping. So we are going to fire this mapping now, and it will call the library, and then it will call the library will call the book. So let me go there, and where it is, let me go to the postman, student is student one, and I'm going to send this. Okay, it is giving internal server error. Let me come to the student and let me see how it is behaving. So not found, library. Okay, we are not passing the URL, sorry, the slash here, so that is why it is not picking up. Let me try to stop and rerun this application again and try to hit this. So this is the silly mistake that I did. So now coming to the postman, it is up on 9091. Let me send it and let me show you. So you can see that we are calling the student ID1. We are calling the student for with ID1, and we are getting the result of student record. And for the library, we are passing as a ID 1, so we are getting the library with the ID 1. And similarly for the book also we are getting with the ID 1. So we are done like whatever ID. This is a one-to-one mapping with the each of the services. So student is mapped to the library and library is mapped to the book. So whenever I'm passing the ID as 1, so it is picking up the student with the ID 1 and displaying its record, and in the it is also going to the library picking up the ID 1 library and then going to the book and picking up the ID 1 book. So this is about the internal calling of the microservices. So today I'm going to discuss how we can create the Eureka server application and how we can do the service registry. So let's go to the Intellij and let me try to create one application for the Eureka server. So let me go to the file and let me go to the project. So here let me create a project called Eureka server application. Okay, now let me go to the next and let me go previous and see where it is created. Yeah. Let me go next. So for creating a Eureka server, we need couple of dependencies, starter dependencies. So Spring Web is required. And coming to the Eureka server, we have a starter dependency called Eureka server. So we need to have that. And let me create this application now. These are the two dependency that we need. Let me open this application in a new tab and then I will show you how it is working. It will take few seconds to configure itself. Okay. Let me close this. So once it is configured, we need to provide some additional configuration in the application.properties file. So I already have noted down those things for your reference and let me go there and let me try to see. So these are the configuration. Okay, let me try to copy this and I'm just okay. Let me go there. Where is that? Yeah, Eureka server application. Let me show this. It is not properly open in the Maven form. It will take couple of times. So let me close this and reopen it so that it can load as a Maven project. So let me go to the open recent Eureka server and open in a new tab. So here it will prompt like load a Maven project. So once it is prompted, we can load it in the form of Maven. Okay, so it is coming now. Let me go here and you can see it is resolving some of the dependency here. Let me go to the src folder and let me go to the Java and all. So coming to the configuration that we need to do, I am just opening the application.properties file and I copied this. You can take a look on this. So this is the port number and this is 8761 is the default port number for the Eureka server. I am using that and we are making this configuration as a false. So I am making this client register with Eureka configuration as a false so that this Eureka server application that we have created does not register itself with the Eureka server. So it act like a server. That is why we are making this false. So later on, when I am going to register other services to the Eureka server, you might come to know that why we are making this false. If you don't make this false, give me some time. So I make this configuration as a false so that this service does not register itself with the Eureka server. So and it behave like a Eureka server. Now coming here to the main class, I need to enable the Eureka server for this. So we are done with this configuration. Now let me run this application and show you how it is looking like. So once it is up, we can see how it is behaving. So it will be up on the port number 8761, which is a default port for it. So I will open that locally and then I will show you how it is looking like. So this is the port number. This application is up and let me come here. Let me hit the URL localhost is 8761. So this is how the Eureka server is looking like. Here coming to the application, whatever application that you will register to the Eureka server, it will you can come and see the instance of that here. Okay, and it will maintain all the other details like on which port number it is up and what is the IP for it, what is the status of that application. So everything it monitors and it registers the services and it monitor everything of that service. And we can also come here and look for the services. If you require some information about the services, you can come here and you can see. So this is about the Eureka server. Okay, so in the next video, I will show you how we can register the other services to the Eureka server. So today I'm going to discuss how we can register our services to the Eureka server. So we'll discuss the service registry today. So coming to the IntelliJ, I already have created these services and I already showed you how internally these services can communicate, and I have created this Eureka server application as well, which is up on port number 8761. Now, if you want to register this book service library and the student service to the Eureka server, then we need to have one starter dependency in these services. So let me come to the browser. I'm going to the Spring Initializer. Okay, let me go back. Let me start from here and show you. Come back. You can go to the Spring Starter in Spring Initializer website and let me change it to the Maven. And there, uh, here I'm going to add the dependency, which is a Eureka discovery client. So this dependency I need. So I'm going to explore this and let me copy this dependency from here and then add it to the my existing services. So this is the dependency that we need. Along with that, we also need this dependency management as well as the version of this Eureka client. So let me go to the book service and let me go to the pom.xml. Let me go downside. Let me go to the dependency and let me paste it here. Okay, and let me go there to the Spring Starter. Let me come here. Let me copy this dependency management and let me paste there to the pom.xml file. So going to the book service. Okay, going back, coming outside of dependencies and then pasting it here. And let me also include the other dependency, which is the version of this one. So where is the properties? So I need to include the Spring Cloud version. So let me copy this also and then include it in our project. So come to the book service now and then go to the properties and just keep it there. And now what you need to do, you need to refresh this and then see how it is behaving. So let me, yeah, it is working fine. Let me rerun this application and then show you how it is working. So before going to rerun this application, let me try to include the same dependency to the other services as well. So let me copy this. So I already have copied the version, cloud version. Let me go to the library service, go to the pom.xml and coming to the properties, let me paste this and let me go to the browser. Let me copy the Spring Netflix Eureka client and let me copy this and come to the pom.xml file of library and come under the dependency and then try to paste this. And similarly, I need to copy the dependency management. So coming to the dependency management, let me copy this whole thing. Okay, let me try to copy this and come to the library service, come downside of dependencies and paste it and refresh this. Similar way, we need to do it for the student service. Come to the student pom.xml file, come downside. I already copied the dependency management, so I'm pasting it directly here. Coming to the Eureka client and the version we need to include for the student service. So let me copy this. Let me copy this and then Come to the student service, come under the dependencies and put it here. Go to the browser. Now let me copy the version of Spring Cloud and come to the student service. Go under the properties and just paste it out and just refresh the Maven. Now, with this, what we are able to do, we are able to register, we will be able to register the services to the Eureka client. But one configuration we need to do. So coming to the application.properties file, I'm going to make the name of this application. So let's say it is a spring.application name. I'm naming it like what is the name of this service? Let's say it is a student service. Okay, so I'm naming it like a student service, and there is a Eureka instance host name which should be the local host, and anything else. Let me check to the configuration. I don't think anything else we need, and yeah, and okay. So this is the thing that I need to configure. Similarly, for the other services like library and for the book service also we need to do. So coming to the library service, I'm going to directly copy this and go to the application properties file and come downside and then do it. So let me change the name to the Eureka, sorry, to the library service. And coming to the book service, okay, let me go to the application YML file. So it is a Spring application name. So let me go there, application name, and let me name this. What is the name? It's a book service. And the other dependency other configuration that we need to do is Eureka, Eureka instance hostname, and which is localhost. So all things are configured now. We included the dependency, we did some configuration, and now let me run each application one by one. So book is up. Let me run the library, and let me try to run the student as well. And then once they are up, so coming, let me show you. Eureka server is already up, and let me come here to the Eureka page and let me show you that no instance is here. You can see application, no instance application is available. But once all those application are up, so we will be able to see that they are all automatically get registered to the Eureka server. So let it up. So this application is up on 9091. This is up on 9092 and this is up on 9093. So come to the page of Eureka and let me refresh it. So here you can see these three services are registered here, and these are the status of these three services. So coming to the PPT, I already showed you that how this service register is done. So you can see these services are registered there to the Eureka server, and there is a name of those services. So with the name of these services, we can call them directly in one service into the another service. So coming to the Eureka server, you can see all the services are up. This is the status. These are the port number. These are the name of the services, and these are the instance. One instance is available for each of the services. So this is about. So I'm covering the microservice crash course, and in this video, I'm going to cover the API gateway implementation, how we can create a API gateway and how we can call other services through the API gateway. So that I'm going to cover today. So let's get started. So come to the Intellij. You might be aware that we have developed these services. Okay, in a real video, we have registered these services to the Eureka server as well. So everything is working fine. Coming to the Eureka server, let me show you that all the services are up now. Okay, so you can see here. Now let me create the uh, API gateway service. So let me go to the IntelliJ, let me go to the file, let me go to new project, and there here I am going to create a API gateway. API get gateway service. Gateway service. Okay, so let me go next, and then for API gateway service we need to include couple of dependencies. So let me include the gateway Spring Cloud routing dependency, and if you want to register this service to the Eureka, then you need to use the Eureka discovery client. So I'm using this much of a starter dependency. Let me open this in the new tab. If you need other dependency, we can include later on. So it will take few seconds to configure this project. Once it is configured, what we can do, we can start doing our development. So this API gateway is more of the configuration, not much of the development is required for the API gateway implementation. So it is not opening in the Maven project format. So let me close and reopen it. So come to the file, open and open this, open in a new tab. So it will load here. It will prompt us to load this project in a Maven. Okay, so let me load it. Okay, so you can see this is loaded into the Maven format. Now coming to the API gateway service, we don't have much of the implementation here. We need to do some configuration. So let me go to the main, let me go to the resource, and let me create a application.yml file, and there I will do this configuration. So let me create this application.yml file. Okay, let me add this. Okay, now coming to the configuration, I already have this configuration handy for you. So let me copy this, and similarly you can copy it from the git and you can use it, or if you want to create yourself, you can create it. You can pause this video and then you can create. Okay, so let me go here to the application.yml file. You can see this configuration is to name this service. Okay, and these are the Spring Cloud Gateway route configuration. So here, this is how we need to configure the services. So in the API gateway, let's say I have three services: student service, library service, and the book service. So for student service, this is the name that I put for the student service. So coming to the student service, let me show you. So you can see here in the application properties file, I name this application as a student application. The same name you need to provide there into the API gateway as a IDE. So let me paste it. And for the URI also you need to provide this. After LB you need to provide this ID. For the predicate, what you need to do, you need to provide the path of your controller. So you can see that in the controller of the student, we started this mapping as a student. So come to the student service app, come to the controller. So you can see at the beginning of this class, we mapped it like a student. So that is why we are mapping it like a student into the configuration of our API gateway. So in the path, we need to provide the controller REST API mapping or the upper mapping that you are going to create. And after that, we need to put this two stars so that whatever thing is coming after this, it will route those requests to the student service. So this is for that only. And let's edit this for the library service. So let me go to the library service and then copy from there. What is the naming I have did to the library service? So this is library service. Come to the API gateway, and let me change the ID to the library service, and here also after LB library service, and the path for this is library. So whatever request coming to the library, so it will route to the library service. Okay, similarly for the book service, let me go to the book service. Let me show you the path, or so, or the controller API for the library. It is library. Okay, that is what I put there into the API gateway as a path. So it is there. Now coming to the book service, let me copy the name of the book service. Okay, so the name of the book service is book service, and now come here to the API gateway and then provide the name of this. So after LB also, and here it is book in the small. So let me show you for the book also. Let me go to the controller and you can see the API is request mapping is book at the class level. So whatever request coming with the path as book, and after that whatever you can provide it will route it here. So this is how we can call the other services through the API gateway. This configuration we need to do. This API gateway is up on the port number 9094, and coming to the Eureka instance host, we have configured it to register itself to the local host Eureka. So we included the in the pom.xml, you might be seen that we included the Eureka client, and this dependency management is already there what we include for the other services. And you can see coming to the properties, you can see that cloud version is also there, so we need not to include anything. If the API gateway is working fine, this is a starter dependency is working fine, then we are good. So coming to the yeah, so we are good with the configuration. Now let me try to run this application and show you how it is behaving. So let me go to the Java application and let me run this. So if it is up successfully on 9094, then through this application, what I will do, I will try to hit some services, and then I will show you how it is behaving, how it is working. So you can see this application is up on port number 9094. Okay, so let me go to the, and so what I'm going to tell you that through this API gateway, I'm going to call the, let's say I'm going to call this, come to the postman. Let's say I'm going to call this URL through the API gateway. So API gateway is like I'm going to hit the student one, and student one will hit the library, and library will internally hit the book. So what, through the API gateway we are calling the student, and the student get mapping is calling the library get mapping, and library get mapping calling the book get mapping. So let's see how it is working. So API gateway is up on 9094, and for API gateway, yeah, this is after that, API gateway is up on 9094. After that, if you want to call the student APIs, then you need to provide this student. This is what we configure there into the path when we were implementing the API gateway. So come here, come to the application YML. You can see here in the path we have provided for the student, it is a student, which is the upper level mapping of the student controller class. So coming to the postman, let me try to hit this API, and let's see how the request is coming. So you can see that we are getting the result successfully. That means the API, with the help of API gateway, we are able to find this. You can copy the whole thing, and you can come here to the browser, and in the browser also you can come and then try to hit this. So let me hit it. So you can see it is coming here. That means we are able to call the student service through the API gateway. Similarly, if you want to call the other services, you can try it out. Okay, and now coming to the Eureka server, let me show you that here you can see that API gateway is not registered, but we included the Eureka client discovery, so it should be included here. So let me refresh it. So you can see that API gateway is also registered to the Eureka. So every services are working and up, and they are registered to the Eureka. Okay, and we are able to call the other services through the API gateway. So this is the whole agenda of this course. If you like this course, please watch all those videos in this series, and please hit the like button, and please subscribe the channel for more such Spring development, and more such, let's say, other development I will also bring on this channel. So if you want, if you are new to this channel, please try to go to my channel and please try to support me. Okay, and please subscribe the channel. Thanks for your support, and keep learning.